Well, good evening and happy Friday. Welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. If you're out there, say hi. Let me know that my audio is working because we all know I have those issues with tech these days. Let's see who showed up so early today. So Rail Artist was waiting, and Mike gets the cookie, the virtual cookie. I don't even know how I could send it to him, so we'll call it virtual. Tim, welcome in. Art, nice to see you in here. Jimmy, thanks for showing up today. Split Rock, yay, it's Friday. That's correct. Yay, it's Friday. Hey, Mom. George, welcome in. And Tim, nice to see you in here. Thank you, George, for confirming you can hear me. So let's go ahead and get started. Nice, robust crowd. Everybody's been waiting for Friday, it sounds like. I know I sure have. So, progress. Did I make any progress this week? Well, I've had this ongoing saga with my airbrush. I bought an airbrush from a company called Spray Gunner. Always had good customer service from them. But this time around, I had bought some additional needles after I bought an airbrush. And as many of you know, a lot of times the needles don't translate well from airbrush to airbrush. So I went ahead and ordered a couple of airbrush needles, and I lost the protective cap on my airbrush. It's somewhere in the abyss on the floor, and I can't find it. And so I ended up really easily bending the needles, the tips of the needles. So I went back and ordered another couple of needles. And I got this box, and it seemed really large and really heavy. And I opened it up, and there was an airbrush, some cleaning supplies, and some sort of thing to hold the airbrush in place. It was totally not my order. So I reached out to them. It took a couple days for them to come back to get back to me. When they did, they said, "Oh, well, can you send me the card that shows who packed it?" And they said, "We'll probably have to have you return the item." And I was like, "Well, hopefully they can send out my order while I'm returning the item." And they said they were going to send me a label. And so I was hoping, well, they'd send the label and the needles. They didn't. I didn't get either. And it was going on a few days. Regular mailing time and everything had gone by. So I reached back out, and they said, "Well, I did." They said the guy I was working with said I mailed the stuff. I mailed the needles out, and so then he went and looked, and he said, "Oh, that's weird. There's no tracking on it. I'll resend them." And then he just emailed me the label to to print out to mail back the other item. I was almost at the point where I was just going to use the other airbrush. But I waited. So eventually I did get the needles. I got them on Thursday, I think, or Wednesday. I'm sorry. I think I got them on Wednesday. Haven't used them yet, but ready to go so that I can go back to the tank build. In the meantime, in weekly conversations with my mother, it came up that she's really liking the idea of bringing in people to her other miniatures with 3D objects. And then when she was watching me work on the tank and everything, she and me talking about weathering stuff, she really wanted to do something with weathering, and she thought of a bench. So without me designing one, I went out and found a bench online and printed it out. So to start the weathering, I went ahead and painted the sides and the crossbars an iron color, and I actually mixed it with normal paints. I found a mix online, so it's really kind of a green look to it. But I've started to, and in this light, you really can't see what I started weathering on here. Um, and that's probably means that I probably need like a um, satin clear coat on there, and that'll probably give it a little bit of a shine to make it seem like metal, and then the weathering will come out better. But I started, that's a project that started up because of conversations with my mom and her intrigue with things. Without airbrushing, I was looking for other projects to do. So this one came up. This was last Sunday that came up, and I quickly found it and printed it out, and have been weathering it. And I only started weathering it now, and all I used is a Vallejo rust color. I'll look to see, other things that I can do with that. I'm still too impatient to do oils. Oh, Gopher Girl made it in. And but she's on her way out, so she's running some errands. So I guess she's just saying hi and bye at this point. I thought I heard the garage. So yeah, and I still haven't put the bird poop on there yet, but there's gonna be some. I'll hide it a little bit for you, Mom, but there's got to be on there. It's a park bench. So I don't know if this color will come out real good. It's actually, it comes out a bit greener on the camera than it is in person. It's a little bit of a bluer color, but it's a blue, blue, red, green, black, and white. And another thing I found online as far as a mixture for the color. So yeah. Okay. Another project I want to do is, as you know, the flat car that you all watch me build on here is super light. It has no weight to it. It's going to have this these coils with wire, because New Jersey Transit used the flat car as part of their maintenance away that they used with their catenary maintenance. So they would, feed up the wires from a car. Now their coils are much bigger than what I found here. So I weighed it and everything. So the car with this weighed like 1.4 ounces, which was way too small. It has to be 5.5 ounces by NMRA standards. So I went and got my big box of weights. I'm kind of at a loss at how to do this, because, I have these little auto weights, the tire weights that are 1/4 ounce. And so it's going to take, it was going to take 3 ounces. So I was trying to figure out 3 1/4 ounces. Came out to the right weight. Well, where am I going to put all that? So I was toying with some ideas. So what I decided that I was going to do is I'm going to design some containers or some, I don't know. I was thinking to make them like an electrical box of some sorts, and they'll cover that on one end, and then we'll have a thinner one where I'll have single weights on this end, and under a box. Um, so I set out to start designing that. One of the tricks I haven't learned, and I went out and sought some advice, so I'm trying to get it right. But to score lines in it, so I use the example of, like an engine. When, how do you score these lines to get the doors and panels in place? Um, I've cut out doorways and windows using 3D CAD software, but I've never done it where it's in place and you make the grooves, or raised grooves or lowered grooves. So I want to learn it so that I can do it with when I scratch build engines. So as I started that, and I'll show you those shells. I think I showed some of them last week. Working on trying to duplicate this or get close to something like this. I'm going to have to be able to do all that in the CAD program. So I got some advice online, and I'm starting to work on that, but it'll just cover that up, and it'll then have the right weight on here. So I kind of started working on that. So I'm back spending more time. When I'm not actually doing the modeling, I'm spending more time doing the modeling online in Onshape, which I like designing. So I'm going to continue to work on that. So that was another project I was working on. So, and then two other items I wanted to show you, but check in and see what is everybody else working on tonight. So you saying it's hard to listen to me, Ken? I do want to say what was really neat at the convention was when I would ask what folks were working on here, to be able to see Ken's work. I was able to see and evaluate Split Rock's work, where he did this really cool signal tower with the interior, with the levers on the interior, and it was all painted. It was all really neat, and to be able to do that. So to hear you working on it on the live stream, and then be able to see it in person was really cool. See, that's something I would love to be able to do, is go back to a project, Jimmy. That kind of scares me a little bit, to go back to a project and work on it. But I would say with like the cab car, I've got to get back to that so I can finish it. I had it evaluated. I got some good feedback on it. Needs lots of work and everything. So I'll be doing it in that sense. But to pick up an older building that you had and go back and fix it up, maybe use some modern techniques, things like that, that's really cool. So again, trying to model this, I showed you some. Let's see if we can pull that out just a little bit. I'm not anywhere near that, but I showed you some versions. Here was, I think, the first version, because it has this really thin layer where I miscalculated the back layer on that. I had to fix that up, and there's some in the printing. There's some, it's hard to see in here, but there were some gaps in there. That was the first one. Then I did like so I fixed that on the next one, and I did like a really speed print. And you can see just from, well, I wish you could see it better on the camera here. Let me see if I have any other. Sorry about the shaking this with direct light on there potentially. It's a little blurry, but you can see all these, the roughness, and here the gigantic gaps came through there. And I thought, oh, there's something, it was just the print or something like that. But it turned out there were some other issues. So I printed it in a finer printing, and still had those gaps. The front gaps were fixed, but I still had these gaps on the inside. So figured it out that when I took layers away, and this was, if you can't really see it well in, you see it well in this one. This was square in here. There was no angle to them. So as I was taking away material here, it was leading into the material. And so I went ahead and corrected that by putting some angle in there, and that corrected that whole thing. And I'm still having problems with how flat this was and figuring out how to angle that. So this part here is angled. You can see if you can see it there. You can see it's angled this way, and you can actually see where the windshield is. It's angled, and then the number boards are straight. That's a little harder to see, but this is straight. And it could have been, one of the good things is Onshape is you can go back steps. It keeps all of the steps. And so you could go back and fix or do things, but I still couldn't figure out how to correct that. Again, look for some advice on it, got some, and here's I just didn't want to use a lot of material, so I created a separate one with really, really big windshield for some reason. But now you can see I have that angle, and I have the angle there, and it's a little harder to see, but the number boards are straight. So I'll have to put that together with this. The other thing was making sure it fit on the chassis. So here's the chassis. And so outside of, this is truly the latest one, but the latest full version here, you can see how rough it is on the inside. If I put supports in here, they call them tree supports, this would be solid. But being that isn't a final product, no reason to do that. You can see just some printing imperfection there. But got the other problem I had was it wasn't fitting over their heads. And so I had to do some tweaking with, again, the angled inside plus giving them room. But now it fits. I could put little nubs probably along here to give it a tighter fit, or just get it around the chassis, keep it in there. That was the other thing, is I didn't have room on the front end, so this was lifted out. Now this has room, and it's inside. So I got somewhere with this, and so I'll keep working on it. But again, we go back to, I've got to figure out a way to do the panels on here. Now I certainly could try to do them in styrene. My concern is the fineness of latches and things like that. I may not be as good at doing. I'll have to add some of the lower parts of the Stirrups, one of my two favorite things in model railroading, stirrups. I hated dealing with those on the flat car. So is he putting it? Is it? I should say. So I assume he's putting it on his layout, that you're building it for his layout, Split Rock. So there was that. And the other fun little project, and me having time on my hands, I guess, was I was looking at weathering stuff, and all the corrugated metal items came up, and so when I was doing a search of some HO scale stuff for 3D prints, I came up on this guy. Let's see here. So I came up on this guy, this corrugated iron maker. I've seen a number of different versions of this out there in the world. This person, I don't know if it's a guy, but this person makes this for many scales. And I could have sworn that I saw S scale, and now I'm lying because I don't see. Oh, I do. No, I can't see very well for some reason. But he makes a version for O scale, double O scale, HO scale, N scale, TT scale. So I don't know where he's located, but he's certainly making it available. And he's got two N scales, so I think that's the 1/148. I think is that Japanese N scale, and then 160, which is US N scale. So so what people will do is they'll use heavy duty aluminum foil or kitchen aluminum foil, and they'll make corrugated siding out of that. So I thought it's not it's a print in parts, and seemed like an easy print. Get this back here, and so here it is, and it consists of, let's see if I've got to figure out my lighting, because darker stuff doesn't ever come out. Let's see. It doesn't come out real well with the lighting I have, but I'll figure that out. So it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total parts. It's this little thing here, and then you just put it together. There are no instructions. It's pretty straightforward. The clearances on these little tabs are really tight, and so they fit in with no gluing or anything. This dial on here, I needed glue on, so I just used some super glue for that. So I'm sure at some point it'll come off. One of the side panels didn't print. It actually messed up for some reason, and then this kind of messed up here, but it didn't. The functionality was fine with that, and I just reprinted one of the side panels, put it together, and to show you how this works, it's pretty simple. You get your kitchen foil, and just happen to have a heavier duty one that we got, I think, from like Sam's Club or something. And then I'm left-handed, so forgive me. So, hey, Brad, welcome in. Nice to see you in here. So then, so you just feed it in, and it'll catch real quickly on here, and then it would help if I have this on camera. And now, obviously, this is pretty crinkled. If you can keep it as straight as possible, do that. But it's very minimal effect when you put it through here, but it slides right through here. And then you have your corrugated panel, and then you cut them to size. And this obviously, this is the modeler's name. You know, and when I had given out at the club the Microset Microsol holders, they had a different license, so I could do that. His license is much tighter. Can't really do that. So I can only point people to his work, and you know, if you want to download that and print it out, you know, you certainly can. Unfortunately, I can't distribute it in any way, but really easy to use. You get what you need out of that. And again, now I don't really have a way personally to prove that that's in scale, but it looks scale to me. So, and I'll show you why. Again, as I'm not working on main projects, I wanted to practice my skills. So this was a perfect thing to practice some skills on. So you can see here, I did took a couple panels and cut them out, or form them and cut them out into a few panels just to test my weathering skills. And for this, I used like a wash, and my wash was a rust color wash that I just watered down to start with. Then I used powders. I had the Monroe Models powders. I have a light and dark rust. I used those. I think it could have used a little more red, if you ask me. Now it's really shiny on, and I did use a matte dull coat, but again, with my lighting, this comes out really kind of too shiny. But if I angle it a little bit, you can see it's pretty weathered. So I had fun working on that, and dull coat works. It kept that on there. But this didn't take long to print, and it's a neat little tool. Now I have to go find a building to put these panels on. There is a, you know, I could do another version. I started to do that you know, the Walters Medusa cement plant. I didn't want to pay for the price for the plant, so I started to scratch build that one. And I don't know what you call it, but where the car goes to dump or to pull out the ingredients for the cement, pull it onto the conveyor. That's a simulated metal building like that. I could probably do some panels using this, but no plans to do that. Just another project to keep my skills moving. So Brad, I know you did I may be behind, but I think I remember you did a layout tour of what have you been working on lately? Oh, what else? Okay, so and Split Rock, you're probably going to have a lot to say about this, but everybody talks about using varnish for when you're weathering. When I put out in the Twin Cities group, the Mudfather Ralph Renzetti asked if I had used varnish on one of the weathering jobs and I had forgotten that step. Um, is there really a difference between a clear coat and a varnish? Um, I hear a lot of people using varnish and they call it varnish and they use brands that call it varnish. Um, but just wondering if there's a difference. I did go out and grab just a bottle of the Vallejo matte varnish so that when I go to weather, when I was doing the chipping with the hairspray, that's where I missed that step. And so I was thinking, oh, I'll just put a dull coat on it. But everybody talks about using varnish, so I went and grabbed some. So I'll do that um, when I get back to working uh, on the weathering, the chipping, I should say, of the tank. So I understand why you would do it. So here was a test piece that I was doing on a piece of styrene and doing the chipping. And if this was this kind of, I think they called it Spanish olive and then just olive green underneath it. So here you can see when I was doing the chipping and using the brush to and water to get that all off of there. You can see it get down to the styrene there and glaringly there. If I had the varnish on there, if I had put the olive paint down and then put the varnish on there, that's what would have protected it, and you wouldn't have had this bleed through. And so I'll probably test that on the back of this. I'll test out the varnish on that before I put it on the tank. So Jimmy, a clear coat usually denotes acrylic. Varnish is solvent based. When I from the people that I was imitating this version of chipping and the hairspray chipping from the person that I was learning from, they still said to use, even though he was using acrylics, he still said varnish. Okay, so you think so, and I don't think he was European, but maybe he was, or maybe that's what it's called in military modeling. Yep. So I was doing the chipping with the hairspray method, and so layering it on. I think I did 2 layers of the hairspray at the suggestion. First, it was the olive green went down, then 2 layers of the hairspray. I didn't clear coat it or varnish it. I let all of those layers dry. Then I put the Spanish olive down, let that dry, and then came back with the water to essentially remove the Spanish olive. But again, that's where it was removing the olive green. Hey, Randy, welcome in. I wouldn't call it. Well, you are late, I guess, from the start, but it depends on how much you could take of me and of the gang that's in the chat. Maybe that was planned. I don't know, but welcome in. It was really nice to be able to sit down and talk to you and your wife at the convention. It was really neat to learn that she works right down the road from where I live. She works she works in a medical clinic for a hospital that I've been to a number of times in the emergency room. So we had a lot to talk about. but it was really nice to be able to sit down and talk with both of you, and outside of the all the convention stuff going on, that social aspect I really like. So say hi to your wife for me when you get a chance. Are you? I should ask Randy. Are you back out camping again? Since although out here in Twin Cities area, it's kind of rainy tonight. Is there something, Split Rock? You use that VMS varnish. Is there something special or different about that varnish from other clear coats or other varnishes? Like I grabbed what we had available locally, which was the Vallejo. Wondering if there's any difference to them. She obviously though wasn't into trains, because she could have come in and sat in any of the clinics and stuff. She didn't really want to, but it was great to go out on breaks between clinics and things to hang out. I know Vallejo updated um, their um, their packaging and everything. But is this the one that you um, have, Jimmy? So I'll have to. Okay, so it's a different one. Okay. Um, yeah. So I thought about ordering it and everything, but I was thinking with shipping and everything, I would start with just grabbing one locally, and then um, gave me a chance to be late back to work too, because the traffic was terrible this afternoon when I went on my lunch break from work. And oh darn it, I was just a little late back to work. But um, I've heard about the self leveling as well, so I'll have to see what that looks like, because I have yet to decal well enough to um, hide some of those decal lines. So I'll definitely have to try that. So So does the polyurethane varnish do something different, Jimmy? So Vallejo stuff doesn't have a lot of description on their labels or online. I mean, all this one says is it's fast drying and it's made in Spain. But and it just says it's water-based acrylic is all it says on there. It all tastes the same to me. I thought you did the landscaping already, Ken. And I'm sorry I don't know a readily available machete anywhere. So, let's see here. It's- all their stuff starting to look the same too. I have a another bottle that's white like this and looks the same pretty much. Let's see. Where are you? I also have this glaze medium. It looks very much similar to that bottle. So you have to read the labels of what you're getting because the glaze medium does something different, and it extends the acrylic, and I used it with paint on the bottom of the glaze medium on the bottom of this car to help with some weathering to help kind of cover up some of the glue marks. But that's why I got that. That's the only thing I've used that on. Their labeling is getting, and they're all of their, all their lettering's very much similar. I'm gonna sound like a really old guy now complaining, but their lettering's very similar, and so I have to really read what I'm grabbing before I grab it now. And so I'll test that out. Hopefully this weekend I'll sit down and test this out because I certainly want to make sure I'm doing a good job on it before I actually do it on the tank model. So I'll probably do it on here. I'll paint that up and do the steps again with the varnish. No, Splerac, I haven't tried chipping sponge. One time, a long time ago, I tried using salt. And that came out, and that was when I was doing N scale, so it looked way out of scale to use the salt because you're not supposed to use the table salt. You're supposed to use like a crystallized salt. I actually I did a couple parts that came out okay, but I think Ralph, being an expert, was able to see right away that it looked like I didn't use the varnish because parts were coming up. I like the method, but it takes a little practice, I think. I'm not trying to make a museum piece out of that patent tank, but I'd like it to look nice, and I'd like to get good at the process. But I haven't tried. Besides those two, I haven't tried any other chipping methods. There's plenty of chipping mediums that you can buy that seem to me like they do the same thing the hairspray method would do, where it's just creating a layer of a layer that you can use water to loosen up the paint and wash that top layer of paint off. So, you know, if I were to use those, that would cost a little bit more. I'd want to be really good at it to use those other mediums. I just generally don't do well with any medium or anything like oils and things like that, because it all extends the life of them of the paint, and I tend to then be too impatient and start rubbing things off and causing my own problems. So I generally don't like that. But yeah, I'll break out the airbrush and go through all the steps this weekend and of painting this side, which is already kind of, I don't remember what I had this on or why this was. I mean, that's the green from the other side, so I was being messy, but there's some, I don't know, I was just being really messy on that. So yeah, Randy. I mean, there's that's some really fine layered work that you'd have to do, and that's, getting down to the, like I was talking, and you may not have been on yet, but I was talking about trying to learn techniques, and I'm reaching out to the 3D printing community, or I'm sorry, the Onshape community, to get, to understand how I can do indented lines, so for doors and things like that, you know to create the doors, but have a door in there, and then having panels on an engine that are raised because they're panels, they're not actually part of the shell, and how to do that. So I'm trying to work on that, but that's such fine printing. I think that as much work as I do on it, I'll probably on my printer probably not be able to do that. I probably need a resin printer. So I may reach out to you, you and the Twin Cities Division 3D printing crew, who have resin printers, to maybe try and print something for me. But to create something like this little hatch here, I did for the cab car, I did a small box under that on the underside that had kind of a raised X to it, and then it had a latch. And I in Onshape, I created it. It looked brilliant in Onshape, but it was so tiny that I couldn't get my printer fine enough with the FDM printer. Couldn't quite get it fine enough with the finest nozzle, and print lines being really fine. I couldn't get that latch to ever print out like that. So I would not be able to print something like that in FDM. Yeah, kosher salt would work. I mean, you'd have to, and you could crush up some of the crystallized salt small enough that you could do it in N scale. I don't have it anymore, but I was trying to, there's a bridge on 94 going northeast on 94 when I'm going to Scale Model Supply that has the coolest rust and chipping on it, and I've always wanted to try to do that. So when I was doing it in N scale, I tried the salt method, and you could crush up the salt to make it small enough for that, but usually out of the box crystallized salt doesn't do so well. But with that, Big John has all my stuff except for one or two things I find. I'm sure I'm going to find a bunch of stuff that was well hidden somewhere. But yeah. but I fell in love with a paint color. If you could actually fall in love with a paint color, um, as I almost dropped when I was painting the bridge that I was working on, that Williamsburg Bridge. It's this one. It's 71056. It's called Panzer Dark Gray, and I just love the color. And it works well anywhere, and it's just a dark gray, but let's see. I know, again, on camera with the lighting I have, there's a little bit of a bubble, but it's just a really dark gray. Almost looks black on camera, but it's not black. See if lighting fixed. No, it just shines off of there. But it's I haven't. I don't know why I haven't used it. I have a craft paint that is a dark gray as well. Where are my grays? Nope, that's the green. So I should say, it's like a needs to be mixed a little. Let's see. The darkest craft paint gray I have. Let's see if you can see. Again, you can still see it's a much that's more on the gray side as a deep gray, and that's much more on a black side. And this, for craft paint, this is considered dark gray. It's not very gray, but that's the deep gray. That's why I like this one. It's just darker, looks better on like girder bridges to me than a gray. So I've used this Panzer Dark Gray quite a bit, and I've gone through a bunch of bottles. They now have their new this is the old version of the bottle. So this was a good price at $3.50 for these bottles. I usually find them for $3.99 at most places, but this was at Ron's Mundelein Hobby in the suburban Chicago area, which I hope to be back to next year when I'm out there. But well, I'm not going to get the price tag off really well, but that's their new labeling for their Model Air. That's their old one. So again, they've been very uniform with their lettering, even though that's white and the other ones were black and everything. But as I get older, gotta watch out for those things. I'm susceptible to scams these days and everything with my age. So let's see. So that good suit color. Yes, it is. I haven't worn a suit in a while. I'm probably going to have to do that coming up in August for a wedding. Random thought, because Randy puts random thoughts in my head. So, Randy, what are you working on? what do they call this? ASMR, where you listen to the sounds. Oh, went the wrong way. This is me making corrugated metal. You got to watch out for moving. This has happened a couple times. So I'm going to cut that off. Go the right way. But again, here you go. Corrugated metal. And like I said, how crinkled up was that sheet now? And you can still see the crinkling on there, but as you weather it and go through it, you'll not you'll very easily get rid of that. But if you can keep it, the problem was tearing this off. So like if I was going to go probably do this with the model, instead of using the serrated edge on the box, probably want to cut it off with a scissors or a knife when you go to take it out, to try and keep the sheet as flat and without wrinkles as possible. Still comes out nice. So really neat little print, and so I'll use it at some point for some of this stuff. The other thing, this still has a lot of shine to it after the weathering, after the dull coat on it. Still has quite a bit of shine in this silver foil. So I wonder if maybe go ahead and dull coat it first, and then put the weathering on it, and then dull coat it again. I've seen other people use sheets of paper to do it, and all kinds of different things. But anyway, just a cheaper way to do it. So many. I was going to say how you've been working on that for a while now, the hotel. So, all that schooling I had, all those degrees I have, I couldn't tell you if it was summer or winter where you are, Brad. Is it? I'm going to guess it's winter where you are right now. And do you even have winter where you are? Do you have cold weather out where you're at? Oh, I get it right. Okay. Gopher Girl and I were talking about how much I want a truck, just because I want a truck, either a truck or a sports car. I've never had. My first car was a Buick Wildcat. So to me, that was a sports car. It was this gigantic boat of a thing. I swear, it had a steering wheel from a truck. But it was a 1969 Buick Wildcat. It was the first car I had. My grandmother's boyfriend wanted to get rid of it, and charged me $1 for it. But either that, a sports car or a truck are the dream cars. But since then, my mother always wanted me to have safe cars, so I've always had big safe cars. We were looking for cars at one point because I had gotten a job with the prospect of getting my license, and they hired me, and so was trying to find a car, and my mom wanted just something really big to protect me and everything. it came from the right place, that she wanted that. But it was literally what I would have called back in the day a pimp mobile. It was two-door. It was this just the longest car ever. It was pink with like a white roof, like those old cloth roofs. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna drive that around. Um, so uh, I remember I remember that, but then I've had ever since I got into an accident and destroyed my mom's minivan. We've had nothing but minivans because she saw when she went to pick up the stuff out of the car, it was totaled. She saw it, and we were Gopher girl and I were dating at the time, and other than a lot of aches and pains, we were fine. So since then, we've bought you know um, minivans, and um, that went into marriage too. We stayed with minivans ever since. So I think I heard the garage door. That means Gopher Girl's home from her errands. Wonder if she's was listening in the car. She said she was going to listen in the car. Uh, so I wonder if she kept up with what we were talking about in here. So I know Summer's kind of oh, there she is. Welcome in, Gopher Girl. I know Summer's kind of gotten started. I know kids are getting out of school, they're going through their graduations and everything, and obviously Randy's camping again. Um, so I'm sure I'm one of the few who really wants to stay inside and model through the summer, but that's kind of me. Yeah, but um, wondering if you have if anybody has plans to um, continue their modeling, or is it like turn off the modeling, do other outdoor stuff, family stuff, and not worry about it. I know with the division, we moved to more social events. We're going to have some picnics and some um, um, train watching going on. I know that's what Ken was referring to. Is he's actually hosting our first picnic coming up on the 21st, I believe it is. So I think the biggest, I'm planning on it, Mom. I'm planning on it. We're discussing dates. I'll be able to get the time off from work. I got plenty of PTO, so I'll be able to take that off. I just have to be wary about. I work in with health and pension, and the fourth quarter of the year is our busy season, and we don't really take time off. So I'll um, have to I had to last year. I wanted to travel, or was it last year or the year before? I can't even remember now. I had to do a lot of negotiating work to be able to travel to visit my mom and to have Thanksgiving with the family, and a wedding that was out there the weekend before. And they really didn't want me to travel out there, but we have one of our offices a half hour from where my mom lives. Plus, I work remotely now anyway, so I was able to work remotely from my mom's house. But that was quite a negotiation thing. For August, it won't matter as much, but I'll be picking some dates and be heading out to New Jersey in August, I'll certainly be looking for train stuff. I do have the coolest mom because she likes to go do train stuff with me and likes to go visit layouts, and she likes miniatures. It's her business, and so we have a good time with that. And she puts up with me and taking me to hobby shops out there and that sort of thing. So looking forward to that. Um, so, so uh, before, when I was out in New Jersey, I didn't know as much about the NMRA. New Jersey has two divisions, and kind of where I live was the bottom of one division. Now, where my mom lives is the top of the other division. There's kind of a split there. There's more of a Philadelphia area basis to one, and a northern New Jersey basis to the other one. They sometimes even have dual meetings and things. So I always look for stuff that they're doing. I look for clubs out there. There's some clubs and some things in New York, in New York State, and New York City, that um, I look for. Our friend Heath is in New York City, but every time I've gone out, I've not been able to work um, to work something out to go visit his layout. But one of these days, hopefully, I'll be able to do that. I'm kind of interested in going. Have you been to Spring Creek, Jimmy, and to their shows before? I've kind of been interested in that, but it's like driving out into the middle of nowhere. And so I haven't done that yet. I would still thinking of going to Milwaukee in November, um, and still thinking about January somehow getting out to Springfield. Money's the big thing. How far? How is it like? How far of a drive is it? Or I assume you drive, because I don't think you can fly in anywhere except for a field out there. But is there, a lot of places to stay around there? So, I couldn't compare I couldn't compare Train Fest to the past because I haven't ever been. But I wonder what people will say now that the NMRA has taken that over, and I'm also interested to see what they do for 90th year celebration. It's closer than uh, Spring Creek. That's funny. Um, okay. Okay. I know they take up a couple buildings for the layouts they have displayed there, and so I think that's pretty cool to be able to walk around town and go see those different layouts. Um, I, you know, I don't know what going back to. They're supposed to be doing something with the 90th year celebration, but I feel like I haven't seen a whole lot from the NMRA on that. I know we had discussion for a while last year talking about, is there something we could do in the Twin Cities? We didn't really, nothing really materialized from that. But um, I'll be interested to see if they do anything like really celebratory, and um, I don't know what else they could do. I mean, it's neat now that we have, um, access to the old publication, to a lot of the old publications. That's really neat to be able to go back and see some of that stuff, see what kind of techniques are still used today and what kind of techniques were used back then that we don't use today. As always, Mike, you're always there. Gopher Girl would be so lucky to have somebody like you taking care of her. I just mostly laugh when she's in pain and that sort of thing. That's not true. I do take care of her when she needs it, and she takes care of me. But I hope I'm as dedicated as you. So I heard people, Randy, talking about that too, about it moving downtown. Is downtown hard to get around or get to, or is it not? Was it someplace that previously that was really easy to get to, or are you able to get like a hotel room at the convention? Or yeah, I'm not sure how it's set up, and it'd probably be good to understand how it's set up. So, crime and parking. Well, isn't it a crime to be in Wisconsin anyway? Oh, you have to pay for parking in Milwaukee. I gotcha. So, does anybody ever fly into Milwaukee? At least, I mean, I guess driving it is not a bad drive from the Twin Cities. So I'm sure a lot of people in the Twin Cities probably don't fly in and do anything like that. But, wondering if it would just be, easier to get there and then or cheaper to use Uber or something. What's different about it than like the world's greatest hobby shows that has the retailers and manufacturers and things like that? Is there something, bigger or different? Miller Lake Caves. You've never mentioned that before, Gopher Girl. So, well, I don't have any secrets, so you know everything about me. But I guess that's the way the relationship works. The other project I'm working on from a 3D perspective is with the shelving that I got to organize stuff. I just printed out 2 bins because the paints are getting out of control. And then I'm trying to print out, I've showed this in the past. Let me see if I'm going to make everybody sick now, I'm sure. And upside down, I think. So you can see this honeycomb thing in here. That's where I hang all my knives and glues that I use and tape. Sorry again. Well, so I'm printing out a couple more of those, and I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna put them on the shelving that I have so I can hang stuff because I'm already out of shelving with all this stuff I have. I have way too much stuff. But yeah, that's the other thing. So those are printing right now. and I'll get those hung up at some point. This is the Borealis stop in um oh, so this is just a test piece. This is so when I was doing the patent tank and working on that, I wanted to test out the chipping method with the hairspray. And so that's what this is. It's just a piece of styrene, and it has olive green base and then a Spanish olive color on top, and put the hairspray in the middle, and then chipped away at it. So using this hairspray, put a couple layers on that, and then let everything dry, and then you add some water with a brush and you get some chipping. So this was just a practice piece for me on that. So that explains it not. So and it was a poor job because I missed this step. We were talking about earlier about you have to protect that the base layer. You got to put varnish or clear coat on it, then put the hairspray on, then put the top coat of paint on, then take it off. And as you can see here on the test piece, there's styrene coming through because I missed the step to put the varnish on. So, but yeah, so I was working on the tank, and then I had a problem with my airbrush, and have been waiting on the needles. I got those now, so I can go back to working on this. So this was just a practice piece, is all that was. So it does stop in Milwaukee. So this trip around to New Jersey, I plan to be taking the train. So I'll have to see. It's still the same route, the 2-day trip, and so I wonder if taking the Borealis will cut down on costs, and if I'll have to check that out and see if I get there and have the time before the train goes from Chicago to Trenton. So, but interested in the Borealis, and the fact that I'm interested. I guess I don't know why I'm surprised. I don't know the numbers exactly, but I do know that it's been popular and they've been able to run the Borealis successfully. So it must be, the times must be better for it. And if it's on time and it leaves at 11:49 and gets there at 5:55, that's pretty good timing. You know, for a train's always a little longer than taking the car, but I like taking the train anyway. And I haven't done it in years since I've flown out most of the time. I've flown into Philadelphia. The last few times I've gone out to New Jersey, and I mean, just the time it takes is much nicer, but I have enough PTO time that I can take a longer trip. And honestly, if if they had any objection to me taking a longer trip, I can just work from my mother's house. And so um you know we'll see how that goes, but it'll be nice to take the train again. I haven't done it in years. I mean, 2 days gets a little long sometimes. um for those people that go to or from Seattle and Portland on the Empire Builder, that's a 3-day trip. I don't know if I could handle that in the train, but uh, haven't tried. Um, so I can't say if I would or not. But some of the times seem long. Um, the longest time was when my dad was in hospice, and we were told it wasn't going to be too long for him, and to come out and say our goodbyes and things like that. And that's the only time that there was a super um, uh, that there was a super long delay. We've had delays of an hour, 2 hours, things like that over the years. But the one time we take the train out that we need to get to New Jersey, um, apparently we were sitting in the station. This was back when it was Midway Station, when it wasn't back in downtown St. Paul. Um, and we were waiting, and they're like, "Oh, the train's an hour late." We are like, "Okay." What happens. Then they're like, "Oh, it's 2 hours late," and they wouldn't tell us anything. And then it was 3 hours late, and it just kept getting later, and it ended up being 7 hours late. And as the story goes, somewhere in Montana, the engine broke down, and so there wasn't another Amtrak engine on the line close by, so they borrowed a freight engine, and as powerful as they are, they're slower, and took them 7 hours to get the train. And those Amtrak Empire Builder trains aren't super long, but it took the freight engine a while to get out to Minneapolis. And they always not always, but they swap engines often in Minneapolis, so they went through that process. And so we weren't going to make the connection to that went out to New Jersey. So we ended up having to stay overnight. Gopher Girl was going to put me on a plane to go out there, but we made it out there. And my dad was in bad shape, and he was on morphine for all day long, and he was just in pain. When he came out of it, he would just be in pain, so they'd give him more. So he was pretty much at the end, and we got there, and Gopher Girl and I were the ones that were in the room with him when he passed away. But we got to say our goodbyes. So I'll remember that train ride. So I think that one frustrated me, and I wanted to fly after that for a while. But I'll be fine with the train. I've taken the train to when we've done our annual Chicago trip. There were one or two times when Gopher Girl wasn't with, because she had something else going on, and I took the train out there and took the metro out to where I met up with my parents. But yeah, we just most recently we went in April to Chicago. We drove. The drive was fine. We were chasing the storm back when they had some severe storms in the Twin Cities area and into Wisconsin. But even then, it was an easy ride. There wasn't too much construction. That's the only thing that ever slows that ride down. So don't mind that either. And having the car in Chicago is nice. I just don't want to drive all the way out to New Jersey just to have the car in New Jersey. I would do that, but now with Gopher Girl doesn't fly, and with your invite from last week, she's excited to go to Springfield now. So we might have to meet you out there, but I'm gonna have to find a way to budget it and figure that out. And it might be a choice of shows and to go to, and we'll have to figure that one out. Okay, but you slept on that bus ride, but it was so cool taking that bus up the hills, up the mountains in Pittsburgh, and driving into the bus station there, or into the train station. Um, because it was early in the morning. It was overnight when we were in, I think it was in Cleveland, and the track past the station in Cleveland got washed out. So they backed us back into, I don't know how they figured out it was washed out after they passed the station, but they backed us back into Cleveland Station, hired a bus, and bussed us to Pittsburgh, and they held the train in Pittsburgh and got us on that one. And but that trip, it was all misty that morning as the sun was coming up, and as we were driving through the mountains there to get into Pittsburgh, that was fantastic, and we wouldn't have seen that on the train. So as annoying as that all was, that was a really cool offshoot of that trip. So okay. Well, it has been an hour and a half of a lot of fun, talking about all the projects, getting ready for summer. But I think we'll go ahead and just wrap her up for the night. And, everybody have a fantastic weekend, and remember to just jump in.